Hey guys, so in this video, I want to discuss the claim that moral disagreement undermines moral objectivity. So I'll be basing this video off of Russ Shafer-Landau's seventh argument found in chapter 21 of the Fundamentals of Ethics, which he attempts to refute this claim. So I'm basically just giving an overview of Shafer-Landau's response to this claim. So one of the most common arguments against moral objectivity rests in this notion that there are all kinds of disagreement. And in fact, there's far more disagreement in ethics as compared to science. So scientists are trying to understand the natural world, objective reality, and so on. In contrast, when it comes to ethics, there is no objective reality. Think about if you see a murder take place. Maybe you can describe how it went down. You can describe the angle, at which way the knife entered the victim, the smell of the blood, the crime scene at hand. But there's nothing in that description that says this is morally wrong, right? That can't be found in reality. So when we discuss morality, all we are really doing is expressing our personal subjective preferences or opinions. And these opinions have come about due to ways we were raised, different cultural backgrounds, outlooks, and so on. So now again, in science, no matter where they are in the world, right, scientists, they seem to agree on a large amount of truths, even if they have different religious beliefs or were raised in different cultures. With ethics, there is way too much disagreement, and it's found everywhere. So here's the argument, which is called the argument from disagreement. Premise one, if well-informed, open-minded, rational people persistently disagree about some claim, then that claim is not objectively true. Premise two, well-informed, open-minded, rational people persistently disagree about all moral claims. Conclusion three, therefore, no moral claim is objectively true. So Shafer-Landau says that premise two may be too strong, because of course there may be some moral claims that every smart, rationally open-minded person does accept. Moreover, what seems to be clear is that even moral claims that seem to be downright obvious, there's always going to be someone who thinks such a claim is false, right? However, this would not show that premise two is true, because these people may, not be open-minded, not be rational or well-informed. So this is a quote directly from Russ Shafer-Landau. He says, indeed, moral disagreement might well be a product of sloppy reasoning, of not having enough facts under our belt, of having a personal stake in the outcome, or of a general prejudice. What if we were able to correct these sources of error? Imagine people who were absolutely on top of all the details, say, of affirmative action policies, who were free of personal bias and other prejudices, and who were able to reason flawlessly. Perhaps they would all agree about whether affirmative action is morally acceptable. Perhaps. But I share the skeptic's concerns here, and am not sure that even perfectly ideal reasoners would agree about every moral issue. So let's accept, at least for the moment, that premise two is true. So grant that there are people who are well-informed, open-minded, and rational people who persistently disagree about all moral claims. Fine, but nevertheless, Shafer-Landau asserts that premise one must be false. So here's another direct quote from Russ Shafer-Landau. He says, what of premise one? That premise must be false. There are counterexamples galore. Brilliant physicists disagree about whether the fundamental elements of matter are subatomic strings. Eminent archaeologists disagree about how to interpret the remains of discovered ancient sites. The finest philosophers continue to debate whether God exists. And yet there are objective truths in each area. There are objective truths about the fundamental nature of the physical world, about the nature of various prehistoric tribes, about whether there is or isn't a God. Gaining knowledge of these truths can be hard, and perhaps, in some cases, impossible. But our beliefs on these matters must answer to an objective reality. Our views do not make physical or archaeological or philosophical claims true. The facts are what they are, independently of what we think of them. So premise one is false because well-informed, open-minded, rational people do disagree about a plethora of claims. But it does not follow for a moment that such claims are not objectively true. Another reason to doubt premise one, says Shafer-Landau, is the premise itself is subject of deep disagreement. Shafer-Landau says this premise itself is the subject of deep disagreement. Really smart people still argue about whether it is true. And so, if such disagreement is enough to undermine objective truth, then the premise by its own lights cannot be objectively true. And it certainly isn't relatively true. True just because I or my society believe in it. The premise then is false. So disagreement fails to show that moral objectivity is false, even among the most brilliant minds who disagree on all kinds of things. So it's not enough to deem moral objectivity false. Shafer-Landau concludes by stating that deep disagreement is also not enough to show that skepticism in an area is correct. So the many disagreements that are found in ethics are completely compatible with its objectivity. So I highly recommend you check out Russ Shafer-Landau. He is a contemporary moral philosopher, and he has a lot of good things to say in terms of moral philosophy if you're interested. So take care, guys. Thanks.